In a small town, far away from the fast life of big cities, there was a quiet street where a small repair shop stood. The signboard outside was faded from years of sun and rain, but people still recognized it easily. The shop belonged to a man named Imran, a mechanic who was known for his honesty and hard-working nature. He lived a simple life, alone, with no family nearby. Many people in the town respected him, but few really knew his story. Every morning, Imran would open his shop at sunrise. His hands were rough and stained with oil from years of fixing cars, motorbikes, and bicycles. His clothes were always simple, sometimes worn out, but he never seemed to care much about appearances. What mattered to him was the work he did and the trust people placed in him. Customers came not only because he was skilled, but also because he never overcharged anyone. If someone didn't have enough money, he still repaired their vehicle and told them they could pay later. For Imran, kindness was worth more than money. But life had not been easy for him. He had grown up with dreams of studying engineering, of building machines instead of just fixing them. Yet life's struggles forced him to leave school early and find work. Over the years, he accepted his fate, but he never let go of the values his parents taught him: honesty, patience, and helping others whenever possible. Though he lived alone, Imran was never truly lonely. The neighborhood children often stopped by his shop. They would watch him work, fascinated by the tools, the sound of metal clinking, and the way broken things came back to life in his hands. Sometimes he would let them hold a screwdriver or pump air into a tire. Their laughter filled the small shop, and though Imran never said it aloud, it gave him joy. One thing that people noticed about him was his calmness. Even when work was tough or when customers complained, he never lost his temper. Instead, he patiently explained the problem, always using simple words so anyone could understand. This patience was what made people trust him even more. Still, his life was modest. At the end of each day, after closing the shop, he would walk back to his small rented house. It wasn't much: a single room with a bed, a small table, and a stove where he cooked his own meals. He didn't own much, but whatever he had, he kept neat and clean. On quiet evenings, he sometimes sat outside with a cup of tea, watching the sunset and thinking about his life. Though he never complained, a part of him sometimes wondered if this was all life had in store for him. Despite his struggles, Imran never let bitterness enter his heart. He believed that goodness always returned in one way or another, even if it took time. That belief kept him moving forward, day after day, fixing broken machines and helping anyone who came his way. One particular afternoon, the town was unusually quiet. The sun was warm, and most people were resting indoors. Imran was busy repairing an old motorbike when he heard the squeaking sound of a bicycle being pushed. Looking up, he saw a young girl, about 10 or 11 years old, slowly dragging her bike toward his shop. The chain had come off, and the back wheel wobbled as if it had seen better days. Her small face was full of frustration, but her eyes carried determination. Imran smiled to himself. He was used to children coming by with small problems, and he always helped them out, never asking for money. For him, it was a joy to see a child's face light up when their toy or bike started working again. The girl parked the broken bike near the shop and wiped her forehead. "Uncle, my cycle is not working," she said, her voice slightly upset but polite. Imran put down his tools and walked over. He bent down, looked at the bike carefully, and then looked at the girl. "Don't worry, it's nothing big. But tell me, do you want me to fix it for you, or do you want to learn how to fix it yourself?" The girl looked surprised. No one had ever asked her that before. For a moment she hesitated, then curiosity won. "Can you teach me?" she asked. Imran's eyes softened with warmth. He nodded. "Of course. Come, I'll show you." At that moment, he didn't know that his simple question would change the course of his life. To him, it was just another ordinary day, just another act of kindness. Yet, unseen to him, destiny had quietly begun to open a new door. For the girl, this moment was special too. She had walked into the shop with a broken bike, but what she was about to receive was much more valuable than a repair. She was about to discover the joy of learning, the pride of doing something with her own hands. And Imran, the humble mechanic, was about to become her teacher without even realizing how important this small act of kindness would become in the days to come. And so, as the sun continued to shine on the small shop, the story began of a mechanic, a little girl, and an unexpected twist of fate that was quietly waiting just around the corner. The girl's eyes shone with excitement as Imran, the mechanic, placed the broken bicycle in the middle of the shop. The afternoon sun slipped through the open doorway, lighting up the tools that hung neatly on the walls. The smell of grease and iron filled the air, but instead of making her uncomfortable, it made her curious. She had never been inside a workshop before, and everything around her felt new. Imran took a clean rag, wiped his hands, and looked at her with a gentle smile. "First, tell me your name," he said. "My name is Aisha," the girl replied, still holding onto the handle of her bike. "Aisha," Imran repeated softly. "A good name. Now, Aisha, if you want to fix your cycle, you must promise me one thing. You must not be afraid of getting your hands dirty. Can you do that?" Aisha laughed, nodding quickly. "Yes, uncle. I don't mind." Imran chuckled. "Good. Then let's start." He crouched down beside the cycle, showing her the chain that had slipped off. "This is the problem," he explained. "The chain has come off the gear. It happens when the cycle isn't oiled properly, or when the wheel shakes too much. Do you see it?" Aisha bent down, her eyes focused, and nodded. "Yes, I see it." "Now," Imran said, "instead of me fixing it, I'll guide you. You hold the chain here." He pointed at a section. "And I'll turn the pedal slowly. When I do, you just lift the chain and place it back on the gear." Her small fingers reached out, trembling slightly at first. She held the greasy chain carefully while Imran rotated the pedal. With a click, the chain slid back into place. The wheel spun smoothly again. Aisha's face lit up with surprise and joy. "I did it," she shouted. Imran smiled, his heart warming at her happiness. "Yes, you did. Remember, things look difficult only until you try. Once you try, you realize they're not as hard as they seem." Aisha looked at him with admiration. She had gone to other shops before with her mother, but no one had ever taken the time to explain things to her. They simply repaired the problem, took the money, and moved on. This was different. She felt respected, as if her learning mattered. Encouraged by her excitement, Imran continued. "Now, let's check the wheel. It looks a bit loose." He handed her a small spanner. "Do you know what this is?" "A spanner," she said proudly. "Correct," Imran replied, impressed. "This tool is used to tighten bolts and nuts. Here, try it." She placed the spanner on the nut as he guided her hand. At first, it slipped, but Imran patiently showed her how to hold it firmly. She tried again, and this time, the nut tightened with a satisfying turn. Her smile grew wider. "I can't believe I'm fixing my own cycle." Imran nodded. "That's the best feeling, isn't it? When you do something with your own hands, it gives you confidence. You'll never forget this moment." Minutes turned into nearly an hour as Imran guided her step by step. They oiled the chain, adjusted the brakes, and filled the tires with air. He explained each step in simple words, making sure she understood instead of just copying. She asked questions, and he answered with patience, never once making her feel foolish. For Imran, this wasn't just teaching, it was joy. He had always believed that knowledge should be shared, not kept hidden. Watching the little girl learn reminded him of his own childhood, when he had been curious about machines. Back then, no one had taught him patiently. He had to struggle alone, learning through mistakes. That was why he promised himself long ago, if he ever had the chance, he would make it easier for others. When the work was finally done, Aisha stood back and looked at her bicycle. It looked almost new now, shining with fresh oil and tightened parts. She touched the handlebars proudly, as if she had achieved something big. "Uncle, thank you so much," she said, her eyes glowing. Imran shook his head. "Don't thank me. You should thank yourself. You did most of the work. I only guided you." She giggled. "Still, you're the best teacher." Imran felt a strange happiness in his chest. It wasn't the kind of happiness that came from earning money. It was deeper, softer, the happiness of making a difference in someone's life, no matter how small. What he didn't realize was that their entire interaction was being quietly observed. Just across the street, standing near a car, a woman had been watching everything. She had arrived with Aisha but stayed back, letting her daughter handle the situation. At first, she thought it would be a quick repair, but when she saw how the mechanic spoke to her child, patiently teaching instead of rushing, she became curious. The woman was tall, dressed neatly, with the confident presence of someone who was used to leading others. She was not just any mother, she was a successful CEO of a major company. Yet, at that moment, she was not watching as a business leader, she was watching as a mother. Her heart swelled with respect for the humble mechanic. She saw how he gave time to her daughter, how he encouraged her instead of shooing her away, how he treated her with dignity. These were qualities she rarely saw in people, even in her own corporate world. Aisha, unaware of her mother's gaze, rode the cycle in a small circle outside the shop. The wheels turned smoothly, the brakes worked perfectly, and the chain made no noise. She laughed happily, calling out, "It works perfectly now." Imran stood at the doorway, smiling like a proud teacher. "Ride carefully, Aisha. And remember, if it breaks again, you know how to fix it." The mother, standing silently, felt something stir inside her. She realized this man wasn't just an ordinary mechanic. He carried a rare gift, the gift of teaching with patience, of making others feel capable. And though Imran had no idea, his actions were leaving a deep impression not only on the girl but also on the powerful woman who had been quietly watching from the shadows. As the evening breeze began to rise, carrying the faint scent of earth and oil, something unspoken passed through the air. Destiny was silently weaving its threads. For Imran, it was just another day of kindness. For Aisha, it was a day of learning she would never forget. And for her mother, it was the beginning of a realization, one that would soon change the life of the humble mechanic forever. The story of a simple act of teaching had only just begun, but already, hearts were touched, and futures were being quietly reshaped. The sun was beginning to set, spreading golden light across the quiet street. Aisha rode her bicycle in circles, laughing as the wheels spun smoothly. Her small voice filled the air with joy. Imran leaned against the doorway of his shop, his hands still slightly greasy but his heart light. To him, the day felt complete. He had fixed many cars, motorbikes, and bicycles in his life, but this little moment of teaching Aisha gave him a different kind of satisfaction. He didn't know that across the road, Aisha's mother had been standing quietly, watching everything from start to finish. Her name was Sarah, and though most people in the corporate world called her Madam Sarah, at this moment, she was simply a mother watching her daughter learn something new. Sarah was a woman who had built her life with discipline and hard work. She was the CEO of a large company, respected by many, feared by some. In her world, time was money, and every minute was planned. Yet here she was, standing still, captivated by a small repair shop where a simple mechanic was teaching her daughter more than any classroom had taught so far. Her eyes followed the way Imran patiently guided Aisha, never losing patience, never hurrying. She noticed the way he spoke to her gently, encouraging her when she made mistakes, and praising her when she got things right. It was rare to find someone who taught with such kindness, expecting nothing in return. Sarah thought about her own life for a moment. She had achieved success, wealth, and recognition, but along the way, she often worried about what her daughter might be missing. Aisha grew up in comfort, but comfort sometimes built walls. Sarah wanted her daughter to be confident, independent, and fearless. And here, in this little shop, she saw a glimpse of that happening. Aisha's eyes sparkled with pride, her hands were slightly dirty with oil, but her smile was brighter than Sarah had seen in a long time. Imran, unaware of the silent observer, was tidying up his tools when Aisha parked her cycle. "Uncle," she said, "now I can fix my cycle by myself if it breaks again. I will not run crying to Mama." Imran chuckled warmly. "That's the spirit. Remember, every problem has a solution if you stay calm and try." Sarah finally stepped forward, walking across the road toward the shop. Her footsteps were steady, and though she was dressed simply that day, her presence carried quiet authority. Imran looked up as she approached, wiping his hands on his cloth out of habit. "Assalamu alaikum," Sarah greeted politely. "Wa alaikum assalam," Imran replied, bowing his head slightly. He assumed she was Aisha's mother. "Your daughter is a smart girl. She learns quickly." Sarah smiled softly, glancing at Aisha, who stood proudly beside her shining bicycle. "Yes, she is smart. But today she became even smarter, thanks to you." Imran waved his hand modestly. "Oh, it was nothing. Just a little guidance. Children learn fast if you give them a chance." Sarah studied him for a moment, noticing the lines on his face that spoke of years of hard work. His clothes were simple, his shop small, yet there was something about him that felt greater than what met the eye. He wasn't just a mechanic, he was a teacher in his own quiet way. Aisha interrupted cheerfully, "Mama, Uncle taught me everything. Look, I can even use a spanner." She held up her small hands proudly, showing traces of grease on her fingers. Sarah's heart softened at her daughter's excitement. She placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I saw everything, Aisha. And I'm very proud of you." Then she turned to Imran. "You have a rare gift. Not everyone has the patience to teach a child like that." Imran felt a little embarrassed at the compliment. He scratched his head and said humbly, "It's nothing special, madam. When I was a child, no one taught me kindly. I had to learn everything the hard way, making mistakes and getting scolded. That's why I try to teach children differently. They deserve encouragement." Sarah listened carefully, and his words touched her deeply. In her world of meetings, targets, and profits, people often forgot about encouragement. They only pushed for results. But here was a man with no big position, no wealth, yet he carried wisdom that many leaders lacked. The conversation was brief, but it left a mark on her heart. She didn't reveal who she was, not yet. Instead, she thanked him, took Aisha's hand, and prepared to leave. "Uncle, I'll come back again," Aisha called out happily as they walked toward their car. Imran raised his hand with a smile. "You're always welcome." After they left, silence returned to the shop. Imran closed the shutters slowly, unaware that the seeds of change had already been planted. He thought of the little girl's joy and felt grateful. To him, it was just another day, but destiny had bigger plans. That night, Sarah sat by her desk at home, watching Aisha sleep peacefully. She couldn't stop thinking about the mechanic. She remembered the sincerity in his eyes, the way he spoke with humility, and the way he lit up her daughter's confidence. As a leader, She knew talent when she saw it, and this man had something rare. She began to imagine possibilities. What if someone like him could teach not just one child, but many? What if his skills and patience could be shared with young people who needed guidance? The thought grew stronger in her mind. She decided that she would not let this man remain hidden in a small shop forever. Meanwhile, Imran lay in his small rented room, unaware of these thoughts. He sipped a cup of tea, tired but content. For him, the joy of the day was simple: he had made a child happy, and that was enough. He had no idea that his life was about to take a turn he never imagined. The quiet town slept under the stars, but within it, an unseen thread connected two very different lives: the humble mechanic and the powerful CEO. And through that thread, destiny was weaving a story that would soon unfold in ways neither of them expected. The next few days passed quietly for Imran. He continued his routine, opening his shop at sunrise, fixing cars, bikes, and cycles, and greeting neighbors with his usual warm smile. Life felt the same, yet something lingered in his mind: the memory of the little girl, Aisha. He often smiled to himself, remembering her excitement when she fixed her own bicycle. It had been a small thing, but it left a lasting warmth in his heart. One afternoon, while he was repairing an old motorbike, he heard the sound of footsteps outside his shop. Looking up, he saw Aisha walking toward him with the same bright energy. This time, however, she wasn't alone. Her mother, Sarah, walked beside her, carrying the same composed presence as before. "Assalamu alaikum, uncle," Aisha called cheerfully. "Wa alaikum assalam," Imran replied, his face lighting up. "So, has your cycle been working well?" "Yes," Aisha said proudly. "I even oiled the chain myself yesterday. Mama watched me." Imran chuckled softly. "That's very good. You're becoming a real mechanic now." Sarah smiled, listening quietly. After a moment, she stepped forward. "Imran Bhai, may I speak with you for a few minutes?" she asked politely. "Of course," Imran replied, slightly surprised. He wiped his hands with his cloth and invited her to sit on a wooden chair near the shop entrance. Aisha wandered inside, happily looking at the tools on the wall. Sarah looked around the small shop before speaking. "I want to thank you again for the way you guided my daughter the other day. It may have seemed small to you, but it left a big impression on me. I watched everything from the beginning." Imran's eyebrows rose slightly. "Oh? You were watching?" "Yes," Sarah admitted. "And I must tell you, it's rare to see someone teach with such patience. Most people would have simply repaired the cycle and sent her away. But you gave her confidence. You made her believe she could do it herself." Imran lowered his eyes, feeling humble. "Madam, I only did what I thought was right. Children should learn. That way, they grow stronger. If someone had guided me when I was young, perhaps my life would have been different. So, whenever I get the chance, I try to help others." Sarah listened carefully, her respect for him growing. She could see his sincerity in every word. He wasn't saying these things for praise or recognition, he truly meant them. After a pause, she took a deep breath. "Imran, there's something I want to tell you. I don't usually share this with strangers, but today I feel it's important. I'm not just Aisha's mother. I'm also the CEO of a company that works with technology and youth training programs." Imran blinked in surprise. He had never expected this simple, kind-looking woman to be such a powerful figure. For a moment, he felt nervous, wondering why someone of her status would spend time talking to him. Sarah noticed his reaction and smiled gently. "Please don't feel uncomfortable. I'm telling you this because I see something valuable in you. My company often invests in training programs for young people. We bring in experts to teach them technical skills. But the truth is, Many of these experts don't have what you have: patience, humility, and the ability to inspire confidence. That's a rare gift. Imran shifted slightly in his seat, unsure of what to say. Madam, I'm just a small mechanic. I don't have big qualifications. How could I ever fit into such a program? Sarah leaned forward slightly. You may not have degrees, but you have real experience. More importantly, you have the heart of a teacher. That matters more than any certificate. If you're willing, I'd like to give you an opportunity. I want you to train young boys and girls in basic mechanics, how to repair cycles, motorbikes, even simple machines. Many of them come from families that can't afford higher education. Someone like you could change their future. Imran's eyes widened. The words felt unreal, as if he were dreaming. He looked down at his rough hands, stained with oil, and then at Sarah's confident face. You really think I can do this? He asked quietly. Sarah nodded firmly. I don't just think. I'm certain. The way you taught my daughter was enough proof. If you can inspire her, you can inspire many others. Silence hung in the air for a moment as Imran tried to absorb everything. All his life, he had worked in this small shop, barely earning enough to survive. And now, this unexpected chance stood before him, not because of money or connections, but because of one simple act of kindness. Aisha came running back, holding a small spanner in her hand. Mama, can I take this home? She asked innocently. Imran laughed. Not that one, Aisha. But I'll give you a smaller one next time. Sarah smiled, then turned back to Imran. Please think about what I said. There's no pressure. But sometimes, life gives us opportunities we never imagined. Don't let fear stop you. Imran nodded slowly, still lost in thought. I will think about it, madam. Thank you for believing in me. They left soon after, but Imran remained seated on the wooden chair for a long time, staring at the tools on his wall. For years, he had believed his life was simple and fixed: repairing machines, earning just enough, and living quietly. Yet now, someone had seen something in him that he had never seen in himself. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying Sarah's words in his mind. Could he really teach others? Could he step out of this small shop and make a bigger difference? The thought scared him, but it also filled him with a strange excitement. Meanwhile, Sarah lay awake too, thinking about the mechanic who had impressed her so deeply. She had met countless people in her career: smart, talented, ambitious. But rarely had she met someone with such genuine humility and kindness. She felt certain that bringing Imran into her company's program would not only change his life, but also the lives of many young people. The following days, Imran continued his work, but his mind often wandered. Customers came and went, cars and bikes were repaired, but deep inside, he was wrestling with a decision. He was afraid of leaving the familiar, afraid of stepping into a world he didn't understand. Yet he also knew that such chances never came twice. Then, one afternoon, as he was fixing a motorbike, he heard Aisha's laughter again. She arrived with her mother, carrying a sense of purpose. Sarah stepped forward, her eyes meeting his. So, Imran, have you thought about my offer? Imran wiped his hands, took a deep breath, and looked at her with determination. Yes, madam. I have thought about it. And I want to try. I don't know if I'll succeed, but I will give it my best. Sarah's face lit up with relief and happiness. That's all I needed to hear. We'll support you. You won't be alone in this journey. At that moment, Imran felt a spark of hope he hadn't felt in years. It was as if the door of his small shop had opened into a much larger world. A simple act of teaching a child had led him to this point, a turning point that would shape the rest of his life. The evening sun glowed warmly on the street as the three of them stood there: the humble mechanic, the excited child, and the CEO who had seen potential where no one else had looked. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was full of promise. And in Imran's heart, a quiet determination began to grow. The day finally came when Imran stepped out of his little repair shop and into a world he had never imagined for himself. Sarah had arranged everything: a small training center sponsored by her company, equipped with tools, benches, and bicycles for practice. It was not a grand place, but it was enough to begin something meaningful. When Imran first walked into the hall, his heart beat faster. Rows of curious young faces looked at him. Some were teenagers from poor families who could not afford expensive education. Others were children who wanted to learn a skill that could help them in life. They all looked at him with expectation, and for the first time, Imran felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. He wiped his hands nervously on his old cloth and stood in front of them. For a moment, he wondered if he truly belonged there. He wasn't a teacher. He wasn't highly educated. He was just a simple mechanic. But then he remembered Aisha's smile, the pride in her eyes when she fixed her own cycle. That memory gave him strength. Taking a deep breath, he began, "Assalamu alaikum. My name is Imran. I may not know many big words, but I know one thing: machines can be your friends if you learn how to understand them. Today, I will teach you the same way I taught a little girl, step by step, with patience." The children listened closely, and slowly, Imran's nervousness melted away. He picked up a cycle, showed them the chain, the brakes, the tires, and explained each part in simple words. Instead of fixing things himself, he guided the students to do it with their own hands. Just as he had done with Aisha, he let them try, make mistakes, and then try again. Laughter filled the hall as one boy struggled to fit the chain, and another girl tightened a nut too much. But instead of scolding, Imran encouraged them. "Mistakes are your teachers," he said gently. "Don't be afraid of them." By the end of the first day, several cycles stood repaired, and the children's eyes sparkled with pride. Imran walked out of the hall that evening with a feeling he had never known before. He was not just fixing machines anymore, he was fixing lives. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The training program grew. More children joined, and slowly, word spread in the town. Parents who once thought their children had no future began to see hope. The humble mechanic became a respected teacher, admired for his patience and kindness. Sarah often visited the center, quietly watching from the back as Imran taught. Each time, she felt proud of her decision to bring him into the program. She saw how he transformed shy children into confident learners, how he spoke with honesty and humility, and how he never let success change his simple nature. Aisha, of course, was his most regular visitor. She came almost every week, proudly showing off new things she had learned. Sometimes she even helped other kids, repeating Imran's lessons in her own words. She often told him, "Uncle, one day I will be like you, I will teach others." Those words always filled Imran's heart with quiet joy. One day, Sarah approached Imran after class. "Do you realize what you've done?" she asked warmly. Imran shook his head. "I've only shared what I know, madam. Nothing more." Sarah smiled. "No, Imran. You've done much more. You've given these children something priceless: confidence, hope, and dignity. That's something money can never buy." Imran looked at her, humbled. "Madam, you gave me the chance. Without you, I would still be in my little shop." Sarah shook her head. "No, Imran. You gave yourself the chance. I only opened the door, you were the one who walked through it." Those words stayed with him for a long time. He realized she was right. All his life, he had thought he was destined only for a small corner of the town, fixing broken machines. But one act of kindness, one decision to teach instead of just repair, had opened a new path. As the months passed, the program became a success story. Local newspapers wrote about it, praising the idea of a mechanic teaching children valuable skills. Some even called Imran Ustad, a teacher of life as much as of mechanics. Yet, despite the recognition, Imran remained the same simple man. He still wore his old clothes, still spoke humbly, and still treated every child with equal respect. His old shop still stood on the corner of the street. Sometimes, he returned there to repair a motorbike or a cycle for an old customer who missed his presence. People in the town often said, "Imran has changed, but he has not changed." What they meant was simple: his life had grown bigger, but his heart had stayed the same. One evening, as the sun set over the training center, Aisha came running with her bicycle. She had decorated it with ribbons, and it looked colorful and bright. "Uncle, do you remember the day I first came to you with this cycle?" she asked, her eyes shining. Imran smiled. "Of course, Aisha. How could I forget? That was the day everything began." She looked up at him seriously. "Uncle, I want to promise you something. Just like you taught me, I will also teach others one day. I want to make people feel the same happiness I felt that day." Imran placed a gentle hand on her head. "Inshallah, you will, Aisha. And when you do, remember the best teachers are those who teach with love, not just with knowledge." Sarah, standing nearby, heard those words and felt her eyes grow moist. She thought about how a single, ordinary day had changed everything for her daughter, for Imran, and for so many children. She realized that life often hides miracles in the simplest of places. The story of the mechanic who taught a little girl to fix her bicycle spread beyond the town. But for Imran, the true reward was not the praise or recognition. His real reward was the sight of children fixing cycles with their own hands, smiling with pride, and believing in themselves. That was enough for him. He often told his students, "Machines will break, but what matters is that you don't break. Learn, try, fail, and try again. That is the real repair, repairing yourself." And so, the humble mechanic who once lived a quiet, unnoticed life became a source of light for many. He had no idea that teaching one child would lead him to teach hundreds, maybe thousands, in the years to come. But that is how life works. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness open the biggest doors. As the stars filled the night sky, Imran closed the training center and walked home. His steps were slow but filled with peace. He had found his true purpose, and it had come to him not through wealth or luck, but through a simple act of teaching a child to believe in herself. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning.